Hello, you're watching Telesur. This is from the south, from Caracas, Venezuela. I'm Carla Gonzalez. Let's begin. At least 31 people have been arrested and 3 others injured in Argentina in a protest against the government's 2019 budget. Workers of news agency Telam, public workers and social leaders were among those arrested. Police have fired rubber bullets and tear gas at protesters. Security forces also used metal barriers to control thousands of people opposing the austerity measures.
It is the budget of the monetary fund. It is not the budget for the people and for the needs of the people. Everyone is suffering. Because there are layoffs, companies are closing down. Because the government is destroying all the national scientific value. They are destroying everything. We will be left with a country with a monumental debt, with no way out.
Meanwhile, fights also broke out inside the lower house as lawmakers discussed the bill. President Mauricio Macri needs this budget to be passed to maintain the agreement with the International Monetary Fund. Let's hear what our correspondent in Buenos Aires, Edgardo Esteban, had to say about this.
The police has violently repressed protesters who were demonstrating peacefully here in front of Congress as lawmakers debate the national budget proposal. This budget aligns with International Monetary Fund, which means more adjustments could come into effect, affecting the most vulnerable people. 31 people have been arrested, 3 people injured, and authorities have not justified yet the reasons of this repression. National Congress is surrounded by fences protected by police lines. It is estimated that the budget law will be voted at 7 in the morning. After the voting, the law will have to pass to the Senate for final approval. The government of Mauricio Macri wants to approve the law before Friday, when the $57 million loan from the International Monetary Fund will be announced to justify this adjustment policy. This large demonstration was repressed with tear gas. Our colleague and cameraman was also injured with a rubber bullet. Police threw things like this to protesters as the march continued in this avenue.
That was Edgardo Esteban from Argentina. And demonstrators in Chile were also repressed as they demanded the government to eliminate the system that manages workers' pensions. Our correspondent in Santiago, Tiare Valenzuela, has more.
People are protesting in Chile against the system that manages the workers' pensions. The current system was set up by the dictatorship and until today uses the pension fund to invest in international markets. But as people protested, police detained the leader and spokesperson of the social movement opposing the system, Luis Messina. Sources say Messina was taken in a police car and is now in a clinic being treated for several injuries he suffered as he was being arrested. Several demonstrations have been reported around the country as President Sebastián Piñera hopes to pass a system of reforms that will capitalize on workers. The reforms are aimed to increase taxes in 40% to workers, funds that they will allocate to the system that manages workers' pensions. Social movements are hoping to meet with the president to propose a system in which workers, companies and state collaborate so that workers can access a fair pension. In Chile, more than 60% of pensions don't reach the minimum wage, and most of the retirees have to work in order to survive. We will keep you informed.
That was Tiare Valenzuela from Santiago. The migrant caravan heading to the U.S. border has resumed its march in Mexico. Migrants left the town of Huixla at dawn and will be walking for 12 hours to reach their next stop in the town of Mapastepec. Many report being injured and their feet bleeding due to walking nearly 800 miles for 10 days straight in plastic shoes or flip-flops. And as migrants pass by, solidarity spreads among residents. In the Mexican community of Acacoyawa, neighbors wait on the side of the road to provide food, water, and other aids to migrants. They cheer to them, shouting, "Keep it up, brothers," while the caravan chants back, "Viva Mexico." The Trump administration has made a number of accusations about this caravan. They have suggested that there may be terrorists from the Middle East among the migrants, that it was organized by the left wing, and that it might have been financed by Venezuela and U.S. Democrats.
You had said that there were Middle Easterners in the caravan. Can you explain that? Are you saying there are terrorists?
Well, there could very well be, yeah. There could very well be. And if you look at...
you know for sure?
I have very good information. I have very good information. And if you look at what's happened with Honduras and statements made about Honduras, and even a phone call that our vice president had today, which I think you can maybe reveal. Do you want to mention that, Mike? Is that okay? Probably.
Certainly.
Go ahead, please.
No, at the President's direction, I spoke to President Hernandez of Honduras. He told me that the caravan that's now making its way through Mexico, headed for the southern border, was organized by leftist organizations and financed by Venezuela. We, as we've said...
And the Democrats, maybe? And the Democrats?
Well,
Let me give you this pen. Let me give you the pen back.
And as people struggle to cross from Guatemala into Mexico, the flow of migrants continues. After seeing how far the first caravan advanced, hundreds more have started their own journey from Honduras.
This is the second caravan of Honduran migrants that has entered Guatemala in the past week. Their goal is to catch up and join the first caravan. They said they have decided to start their way to the U.S. despite attempts by Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez to close the border.
The other caravan is waiting for us to join them. We are waiting in Zacapa for yet another group that's behind us. There are around 12,000 people. We are only 5,000 people, so we are going to try to get everyone together.
On the road from the department of Chiquimula to Guatemala City, migrants are asking drivers to take them. Even police are taking them in their vehicles. Many of them are exhausted from the long road. How long have you been traveling?
We have already walked for 7 days. We are very tired, but we are being joined by God. He is helping us.
In this second caravan, more families have fled Honduras together. Children and newborn babies travel along with their parents. They say they are not afraid of what can happen at the border of the United States, but no matter what, they will not return to their country.
The president will stay alone with his country. We do not want to go back there.
Have you left your family and friends?
Yes, but we have to keep going forward.
People in the caravan say there are even more people coming behind them, despite the announcement by the president of a plan to return them home safely. A plan no one seems to be interested in.
Coming up, we have more stories, but meanwhile, you can follow us on Twitter. We are at Telesur English and my account at Carla G. Telesur, so give us a follow. We'll be back.
Queria não ter corpo, para não sentir mais dor. Portanto, é razoável morrer para se livrar da loucura. É isso que eu conto lá. Além dessa porra de dar choque, o caralho fica maquininha, você não fica com a respiração convulsa. Se você estiver expirando, você não consegue inspirar. E se você estiver inspirando enquanto o cara está girando a máquina, você não consegue fazer o contrário. Então o cara bota amoníaco, imagina amoníaco aqui. Você já cheirou amoníaco? Nunca? Aí os caras me pegam e me levam no quartel do 2º Exército, lá onde estavam aquelas barraquinhas lá dos militares, que é em frente à Assembleia Legislativa. Vocês conhecem ali. O Doicode era na Rua Tutóia. O quartel do 2º Exército está ali. Vieram, pumba, me levaram no quartel, levaram no dentista. E esse dentista dentro, foi esse cara que meteu a broca em 2 dentes vivos. O que me levou Não consegui nunca conseguir tratar do jeito que só de ouvir a porra do barulhinho da máquina já está todo travado.
Welcome back. Brazilians will choose their president on Sunday. Let's look at what's new in this key election for the region. First, let's talk about the criticism against candidate Jair Bolsonaro. Some say he is a threat to democracy given his sexist, homophobic, racist, and authoritarian comments. We bring you more in our special series, Bolsonaro or Haddad, two opposite projects for Brazil.
The destinies of close to 150 million Brazilians truly rests within their own hands. Liberal Social Party candidate Jair Bolsonaro strongly backs the use of anti-terror laws against social movements. He has also made it clear that he will not condone any form of social activism. On the other hand, Workers' Party candidate Fernando Haddad promises to introduce new agrarian and urban reforms. He also guarantees equal representation of all people. Bolsonaro's supporters agree with his proposed suppression of social movements.
There has to be better regulations, because we can't continue like this. Invasions carried out by these groups are wrong. Anyone who chooses to invade another person's private property is wrong. That is simple evil.
In a video message, Bolsonaro said he would wipe off the map persons he described as red criminals. He was referring to social and labor organizations. Political analysts warn that the relationship between Bolsonaro and the business elite could have a serious impact on workers' rights.
São os empresários que estão financiando as fake news.
Businessmen are financing fake news. They are essentially enabling the dismantling of labor rights, and that is why they consider Bolsonaro a strong ally. He is a candidate without limits. He will persecute his opponents. He will silence human rights activists. He will persecute any worker who will try to defend his rights.
She was a political prisoner during the Brazilian civil-military dictatorship. Now Solange José walks the streets of Rio de Janeiro, rallying support for Fernando Haddad, and to let people know the threat that Bolsonaro represents.
The Brazilian people do not know how severe a dictatorship is. I experienced it firsthand. I know what is it, and that's why I am out here. I have been part of the teachers' union for 20 years. I had to quit my job because I needed brain surgery. This was because of the injuries I sustained from being repeatedly struck in the head during the military dictatorship.
Voters have seen and heard the hateful messages Bolsonaro has sent his opponents. In addition to his son's threat to close the Supreme Court, now the destinies of millions of Brazilians truly rests within their own hands.
8 former Brazilian ministers of environment have published a letter to condemn candidate Bolsonaro. They fear his policies will have a negative impact for Brazil's environment. Among them, Bolsonaro rejects the Paris Agreement and has said that he would merge the Ministry of Environment with the Ministry of Agriculture. Workers' Party candidate Fernando Haddad has been greeted by a massive demonstration in Rio de Janeiro. Haddad continues to call for a debate with his opponent before Sunday's runoff election. He said that the debate can take place anywhere and in any format, saying that democracy will suffer if voters are unable to compare the two candidates' ideas. And former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has made a call once again for Brazilians to head to the polls this Sunday. Via Twitter, Lula says that this moment above all is the future of our country and of democracy and our people. It's time to vote for Fernando Haddad, who represents the survival of the democratic pact. He called on people to vote without fear. We move to Cuba. Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez has denounced that the United States is planning a new political strategy to continue the blockade against the island. In a press conference, Rodriguez said that the U.S. permanent mission in the United Nations has launched a series of amendments to the resolutions that condemn economic sanctions. Rodriguez said this is just a way for the United States to pressure countries. The vote is expected for October 31st.
The repeated statements of the United States against Cuba have a goal, and that is to increase tensions between the two countries. The United States wants to defend, with the help of any tools, generally illegal and immoral ones, its behavior over the sanctions against Cuba.
Now to Venezuela. President Nicolás Maduro has held a meeting with intellectuals to talk about the country's situation. Maduro said the government has created the 2025 Plan de la Patria to achieve social, economic, cultural, and political consolidation. He also announced a campaign to fight violence against women and the launch of Farmers and Fishers Congress. Now we go to another story. In Ecuador, a U.S. Navy hospital ship recently arrived in Esmeraldas, but some patients complained that they were not able to access the medical care that they needed.
This is Carmen. She's one of many residents desperately in need of medical assistance. Carmen suffers with painful varicose veins in her legs and was told she urgently requires surgery. Sadly, her medical insurance does not cover this type of treatment at public hospitals. So when she heard about the ship's arrival, she wasted little time in seeking help. However, she was met with disappointment.
This is a joke. We have been here since 7 o'clock yesterday and we have been told that there is only dental medicine. It is not right that they have deceived us like this, in this town where some of us are literally at death's door.
Several citizens told a similar story. Some were upset about having to endure an hour-long wait for medical attention, with the scorching heat of the sun bearing down on them. They say they feel as though they were being insulted by the Defense Ministry at the United States Embassy.
They lied to us. After 2 weeks of $1 million promotions promising that this hospital ship was going to be the long-awaited help we need. However, it has failed to deliver. Only the relatives of the authorities and persons close to them seem to be getting attention.
They said they were bringing specialists from the United States. We believed that they would have been able to provide us with good medication. However, look how they have treated us. This is a mockery.
The visit of the U.S. Comfort ship is part of an international cooperation agreement between the United States and Ecuador. The vessel's medical team says it is expected to attend to over 700 patients a day and carry out about 20 surgeries on board. Ecuador's defense minister attempted to address the people's concern.
The international cooperation with the United States is of great importance. We assured that the medical team would see patients over the next few days, all those that need urgent medical attention, so Colm can return to Esmeraldas.
Despite the government's claims of success, some citizens say Esmeralda continues to be one of the most neglected provinces in the country. Denise Herrera, Telesur, Ecuador.
And we return to Brazil, where the Sao Paulo Fashion Week is celebrating diversity a few days before the election. Under the theme Transposition, the event advocates for tolerance in contrast with hate speech, sprayed by supporters of the far-right candidate Jair Bolsonaro. The Sao Paulo Fashion Week puts color to a call for tolerance and for the end of racism, sexism, and homophobia. We'll take one last short break, but stay with us. Thank you for joining us again. Saudi Arabian Prince Mohammed bin Salman has vowed to bring the murderers of journalist Jamal Khashoggi to justice. Speaking in a conference in the capital, Riyadh, he said Turkey and Saudi Arabia will work together to obtain results on this case. These are the first comments since the death of Khashoggi, which sparked global concerns. His critics say the Saudi royal family is responsible for this. At least 19 people have been killed in Yemen in airstrikes launched by the Saudi-led coalition. The airstrike hit a vegetable market in the province of Al Hudaydah. Another 6 people have been injured in the attack. Iraq's new Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi has been sworn in, but only with a partial cabinet. This after lawmakers failed to reach a consensus on key ministries such as Interior and Defense. Analysts say this rowdy parliament session has just created more uncertainty in the country. 8 ministries have yet to be decided ahead of a deadline set for November 2nd. The Algerian National Assembly has elected a new speaker, but the current one refuses to resign, raising fears of an institutional impasse. Around 200 deputies kept Algeria's parliament locked up for several hours this Tuesday in protest to demand that the House Speaker step down. Algeria's constitution and laws do not lay down a procedure for the dismissal of a parliament speaker if he refuses to step aside.
We cannot be present and support a coup d'etat given the way events have unfolded. We consider the coup d'etat against a constitutional legitimacy and legitimacy of laws. It is a miscarriage and dangerous deviation it is happening in the country.
Sudanese Prime Minister Mutaz Musa has announced new austerity measures to deal with inflation. At the National Assembly in Khartoum, the Prime Minister explained that the austerity plan includes restructuring the state and freezing the public budget, as well as cutting tax exemptions. The economic crisis is attributed to the loss of oil revenues after South Sudan's independence in 2011. Tech entrepreneurs in Somalia are holding a summit in capital Mogadishu, attracting hundreds to talk about business and innovation. The three-day event was conceived by a group of young Somalis to showcase the work of dozens of local companies. Somali entrepreneurship persists despite the violence that engulfs the country. Tech innovation is just the latest example, and it may play a key role in rebuilding Somalia. And before we go, a story about Crimea's Safari Park, which welcomed 3 rare white Bengal tigers. Although the blue-eyed babies were born in early October, they were kept hidden from public view because they couldn't open their eyes yet. The chief zookeeper is thrilled to welcome them and says the park is helping them save the species from extinction. And we hope you enjoyed that story as much as we did. And with that, we end our news brief, but you can follow all our stories on our website at Telesur English TV, at telesurtv.net/English. Here you can follow everything on the Brazilian elections coming up, so go give it a check. And you can also follow us on social media. I'm Carla Gonzalez, and until the next time, thank you for watching Telesur, connecting the Global South.